Good morning. We had completed till verse 20 yesterday. This is the Uddhav Gita within chapter 13, verse 21 from today. So, chapter 13, verse 21, Uddhav Gita, the last message of Sri Krishna. Taking shelter in a secluded and a congenial spot, and with his mind purified by rapt devotion to me, the sage should meditate on oneself as identified with me. Now, when we talk of the sage, we are already speaking of somebody who has have a certain amount of enrichment as far as the spiritual world is concerned. That means the knowledge is complete. The person has enough knowledge. It's an idea of implementation. That's it. So, how does a person implement it? Remember, he was a vanaprastha. A vanaprastha is somebody who has taken retirement, somebody who has taken a lead of going to the jungles. In the past, it was going to the jungles, but now it could be called as somebody who has taken a back seat in life and is devoting his entire life towards this spiritual development. That is vanaprastha. And then we have a sannyasa ashrama, where sannyasa is about leaving everything and going away. Now, in the material world, since we are just not one country, there are so many countries across the world, it is impossible to find a Himalaya or some such kind of a range where a person can take what is called as a sannyasa. Yes, there are lots of ashrams across the world where a person can take sannyasa. But if you go to these ashrams, you will actually find there are hardly a few people which you can count on your fingertips who have taken the vrat of a sannyasi. And a real sannyasi is a person who doesn't indulge in anything nefarious or anything wrong in this world. We are talking about pure sannyasis. Somebody who has taken the sannyas mark has got complete knowledge, but it is about getting experience and implementation. These are two things which are very, very important. Taking shelter in a secluded and a congenial spot, and with his mind purified by rapt devotion to me, the sage should meditate on oneself as identified with me. Once the knowledge is complete, the person is supposed to take refuge in one spot. This is like your cave. This is like a place where nobody is going to come and disturb you. In the olden times, they would find caves in the mountainsides and sit over there for years. In today's day and age, since there is a very difficult period where you cannot find this kind of mountainsides which are not inhabited, what you got to do is you got to find your own space which is undisturbed. Nobody comes and goes over there. There is not a soul in sight. It could be your own, kind of a holiday home or something like that. Maybe it could be a far away place, maybe some log cabin, I wouldn't know. Or it could be a place where it's far away from the city in the hustle bustle. Take this space, take the room wherever you want to, or take this particular cabin that you want to, and spend your time meditating on the Lord alone. There is nothing else to do. Your job is to have devotion to Krishna alone. There is no other thing necessary for any person to do. He should be sitting in this particular secluded and congenial place, and his mind has to be purified with rapt attention to Krishna. When you are in the material world, you know how many disturbances are there. Think about it, that if you are somewhere in the city, your door is going to get knocked, there is going to be a traffic moving from there are going to be people coming and going, and even if there is no traffic on the roadside, at least there will be an aircraft going from top and that is going to disturb you. And lots of things which can disturb a person. Here, what is required is called single pointed devotion. Nothing should enter in your mind space except Krishna. When I say Krishna, it is called the Supreme Divine Consciousness. It is called the Lord Almighty. It is also called Father in Heaven. It is called Allah. It is called by various names, by various denominations. And you can just consider that as the one. The one who is full of love. And his love is all that you care for. So be devoted to this one only. And nothing else to enter your mind. Your mind has become purified with the knowledge that you have gained in your life. Person should meditate on the one self identified with me, which means the self which is one with Krishna. See, when we talk of getting lost in the self, the moment you say I am lost in the self normally a person thinks of as an abstract one, something which is unmanifest. We do not identify it with anything. We think it is nothing. Ask yourself this question. If nothing is the ultimate destination, then who created nothing? So there is a Brahma, or there is a nothing as per Buddhism. So who created nothing? Something must have created nothing. And that something, somebody is the Supreme Divine Consciousness. And this is the thing that we need to believe in, have faith, 100% faith in, have devotion to this one only. So when you identify this self with Krishna, Krishna is the one which is also the self, then your journey is complete. Verse 22, he should reflect on the bondage and liberation of the self through the pursuit of knowledge. Bondage consists in outgoing of the senses and liberation in the control. Now we are going to take step by step understanding of what a person is supposed to do. Now you know he is sitting in one place. There are two things associated with the body, the mind and the senses. It's called liberation and bondage. If your eyes are following an object, if your ears are listening to the sounds around you, if you can smell even a flower next to you, then you are in bondage. Because if you can identify these things in your mind's eye, then you are focusing on these objects. How can you focus on these objects? When your mind is withdrawn, your senses cannot identify anything in this right around you, then it is liberation. Got it? Liberation means your eyes may be open and yet you are seeing nothing. Your ears may be open and yet you are hearing nothing. Your nose, your mouth, your hands, your legs, everything is in working condition. But nothing is entering you. There is no disturbance because of these external forces. That is a state of a sage. Understand this. This is a very important thing. In the material world, a person can get disturbed for no rhyme or reason. That person is of the lowest category. Think. Even normally people get provoked and then they get angry. But if you get angry even before provocation, then it is something completely wrong. Then you are a bound soul. This is the worst thing a person can do. The trigger is not outside, the trigger is inside in the mind. Think. Why would a person get disturbed? The disturbance is not because of external circumstances. The disturbance is because your mind is impure. And this impurity causes those problems. So a person should have equanimity of mind. No disturbance whatsoever. So whether there is provocation or nothing like that, a person should be in a state of equanimity. A sage, a saint, is a person who doesn't get disturbed even on provocation. Why? Because he is free. Bondage means when you are affected by your mental faculty and your physical organs. That is called bondage. Anything that you see, touch, feel, experience, hear, anything, if it is disturbing you, then you are bound person. You are bound like nobody's business. But none of these things are disturbing you. Your eyes are seeing and yet you are calm. Your ears can hear and yet nothing is happening. You are smelling things but no reaction from the mind and the body. Then that is called freedom. Please remember that. Verse 23, chapter 13 from the Uddhav Gita. Therefore the sage, controlling the senses, should roam, looking upon everything as myself. Deriving great bliss from the self, he should turn away from petty desires. What is the sage supposed to do after that? He should have controlled all his senses and his mind. Then he should roam about. Remember, he was sitting in that place. He was in that particular location. Now, after he has done his sadhana of becoming single-pointed with Krishna, then he is supposed to go around everywhere. And which way? Look at everything as me alone. You know, the problem in our material world is we identify people in our lives. How do we identify them? We identify them with relationships. They are relative to us. This is my mother, this is my father, this is my wife, this is my husband, these are my children, and I am very pally with them. I am very nice to them. My mother is sick, my father is sick, my husband is sick, my wife is sick. Yeah, I got to take care of them. You know, that is my primary duty. Well, a sage is not a selfish person. A sage is a person who sees Krishna in everything. To see Krishna in everything and everybody. So can you make a distinction of anybody? When you know God is everywhere but you never practiced it till today, can you ever become a sage? No. A person can never become a sage if they do not practice this. They have biases in the world. The bias is so pronounced that I got to take care of my family. Well, in Krishna's world, this is called Vasudeva Kutumbam. That means this whole world is one family. Why is it that you cannot see Krishna in everything? This is what he is talking about. Therefore, the sage, controlling the senses, should roam, looking upon everything as myself. Deriving great bliss from the self, he should turn away from petty desires. Everybody has desires. I want this, I want that. Everything is a desire in this world. The want, needs, everything. Human beings have this ability to extend their desires on objects which are right in front of their nose or which cannot be seen also. Think about it. You might have never gone to a faraway location and yet you feel, I should go to Japan. I should go to this place. I want that object. Desires. Even if there is a desire, the desire is to get something which even in your spiritual world is not attainable. When I say this, I mean even if it is just a morsel of food. You will come to the verse where Krishna says these words. And people bang the door in your face. The mouth should never utter a curse or say anything bad to that person. On the contrary, bless them so that they get a better heart. They get to see Krishna in everything. When you love Krishna and when you have devotion for Krishna, you got to see him in any place, including the person who bangs the door. If somebody reprimands us or if somebody says something to us, it should be a contrary thing. Who will reprimand and who will say something bad to you? Suppose you have done something and the Guru normally, if you have seen, the Guru normally reprimands if you have done something wrong. But if he praises you, you are a goner. If the Guru praises you even for a moment and says, oh, you have done a great job, it is not a good thing. You see, in the material world, when we meet people, when you have plumbers coming to your house or when you have a painter there, where you have a gardener and the gardener has done a job and that time we say, oh, you have done a great job, you know. Do you know how fake you are? The praise is unworthy actually, and yet you are doing it because that person is supposed to come to you once again. So praises are not a good thing in the spiritual world. The Guru normally doesn't praise. If he is praising you, then you should know that you have fallen. If he is reprimanding you and if he is saying certain hard words to you, know that he loves you the most. There is a difference in the spiritual. And in the material world, you will find that you get all the laudits. You know, you are standing on a podium and maybe you are getting a nice presentation and this and that. Everything is done. It's all fake. You know that very well. In some place I saw people have put up in LinkedIn, I saw one person putting up a very nice certificate given by his superiors. This person has done a great job. Do you know in the spiritual world that is a different story? And in the material world, if your boss is praising you, please know that he is taking you out of his team or is removing you out of that place. You know, when a promotion is given, you should know very well that that promotion is given because you are a pain in the ass of your boss. That is why they give the promotions. So that he doesn't want that person. See, you cannot demote a person. Union and every other person will be against you. But if you promote the person, what happens? That person gets to get the feel of how painful the job of a boss is. Do you understand? This is the whole reverse psychology is working over here. So get this point. This person who is called the sage, he has to look upon everything as me alone, Krishna says. And he should go away from petty desires. Next verse 24. This is chapter 13, Uddhav Gita, verse 24. Going to towns, villages, cowherd settlements and assemblies of pilgrims in the purpose of begging his food, he should wander over the earth, abound in holy countries, rivers, mountains, forests and hermitages. In olden times, the sage would wander around all over the town, everywhere. Wherever he felt like, he would just keep on wandering. There was no fixed aim in his life. He was not going fixedly, I am going to this village, I have to attend to this place. No. There was nothing like that. A funny thing I have to tell you. You see, when you go on a long drives, have you noticed that there are lots of food stalls, food outlets on the way? Do you know why they are there? Because you have to take the call of nature. And every step you take a call of nature, they make business over there. So it is such a beautiful way of, making business. All these outlets over there, just for one toilet, you will take a halt. And then you will spend a bomb over there. Oh, this is very good over here. Let's have this, let's have this, let's have this. And when you are paying the bill, you will look across the counter. Can I have that also? Can I have this also? That's what happens. All these outlets which are called motels and the small running places, they make money because of that. And this is in the material world. In the spiritual world, the sage is not even supposed to bother about these kind of things. He is not supposed to think, I will be walking about 20 kilometers today. Okay. After that, I will come to this town. I will get some food over there. A sage doesn't think like this. He is not motivated by toilets or places which serve food. Do you get the point? That is called motivation, the first one. The idea is not to be bothered about where, how, why. All these questions should not be there. You are just wandering. You are just going with no specific aim in your world. Your aim is already inside of you. You are lost in the self. Lost in the self, devoted to God, you can wander anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. And let me assure you, it really doesn't matter where you go. Why? Because you are not focused on going anywhere. The only place you are going is in yourself. And that is what Krishna is saying. So even for a material worldly person today, it is not necessary to plan. Yesterday, somebody was asking me a question. So the person asked, Guruji, what about ashram? You don't have an ashram. You don't have a place to go to. I looked at him and I said, you know what? I really don't know about all these things. If there is an ashram, there is an ashram. If there is no ashram, there is no ashram. If there is a place to stay, there is a place to stay. There is no place to stay, there is no place to stay. If there is food on the table, there is food on the table. There is no food on the table. It shouldn't even disturb a person. Because when you know you are being driven by an eternal force up there, which is called the Supreme Divine Consciousness, why are you bothered where you are going and what is happening? And that is the reason why a man should not be bothered if he is a sage. Where the money comes from, how it goes, why are you caring for that? If it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. The funniest thing happened yesterday. Yesterday, we have Guru Purnima on the 5th, isn't it? The government has specifically said the lockdown starts on the 5th of July. Nobody is supposed to go out and nobody is supposed to come in. There is a complete lockdown on the 5th. Now understand this. You can either look at it as it's a painful thing, or you can take it as the most beautiful thing in the world. It's in your hands. The Divine Lord's way of working can never be understood. I told you people will bang the door in your face if you go out and beg. We are going to do that verse now. If somebody bangs the door on your face, you are not supposed to turn around and call him names and say, your family is going to the dogs. No, you are not supposed to say that. On the contrary, bless that person so that he can reach the divine very nicely. We should always look at these things not as an obstacle. Human beings look at the whole world as an obstacle. Actually, it's not an obstacle. It's a God-given opportunity. Think about it. Climbing the Himalayas is the biggest obstacle in the life, isn't it? And imagine those people who consider climbing that mountain as the greatest opportunity. The same thing can be seen from a different perspective. World over, people are thinking this coronavirus is such a problematic thing. I have to stay at home, social isolation, I cannot go out, this cannot be done, that cannot be done. This is a horrible time. I have to see my wife's face all the time. My children are irritating me. I cannot even go out. There are too many things happening. That is because you consider it as an obstacle. Now consider it as an opportunity. It's a God-given opportunity given to you, bang in your hand like this. Here, take it. To think about your life. You see, the divine is making a sage out of you. By using his own techniques, Maya has created a sage. And this is the right time for you to do a lot of soul searching, they call it, isn't it? Soul searching. Do the soul searching. Think for yourself. What is it that you got to do? So this is an opportunity. Have you ever got this opportunity? Never. There are companies which are closing down. Okay? Yesterday I heard that Microsoft has closed all its stores. If you consider that as an obstacle, then you are finished. But consider this as an opportunity. You see, there is a company called Amazon which is minting money. Because they have gone to do something which the other companies are not doing. You open a store and wait for the customers to come. You know the story of the Muhammad and the mountain, isn't it? If the mountain doesn't come to Muhammad, the job of Muhammad is to go to the mountain. So it's an opportunity, don't you think so? The opportunity is you have to go out and get the customers. Go out. So if the company thinks that closing all the shops, how many people were trickling in a day? 20, 30? But now you can do 100 door knocks. You can do 500 door knocks directly. You can do DM, direct marketing. You can go and see people. You can do online shopping. How many things have opened up? The same thing which you have said, I am never going to do online shopping. A person is sitting and doing it. You see, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think, demonetization was brought in India. And everybody felt the pinch. Everybody was feeling, why is this? Why is this? Why is this? A very funny thing happened. You could make payments by apps in the phone. The government said, don't pay with cash or with your bank transfers, paid by your app. Today, do you know? Go and see in the last few months, 3 to 4 months of your transactions. Go and check it out. Are you using your direct pay apps or are you using your credit cards or debit cards? Your credit cards and debit cards have gone inside the cupboard and now everything is by means of phones. Tick, 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 and you are paid. Can you see this? This is called opportunity. Opportunity of not even going to the bank. Got it? So this is what the sage is supposed to do. So if the fifth is closed, isn't it an opportunity to do excellent service? Even the few that are there. And be the best. There is nobody to interfere in your life. You see, if there are too many vessels, there are too many noises, isn't it? Now if you are alone, you may be sitting here and somebody else may be sitting at the other end of the world with your video on. They will be able to see without any obstruction. Think, there are people who go to see the match. There are cricket matches, football matches and all that. They are sitting so far away, they can't even see where the ball is. They can't even see that there is a fault, an error. The referee is calling for some, red card, yellow card, whatever cards that are there. But if you are sitting in your drawing room and watching it through the television cameras, you're seeing it on your television, you can see the finer nuances of how the person is kicking. You can see how the bat is going in the air. You can see the ball flying off the bat right up to the pavilion. Isn't it wonderful? So take this as an opportunity. Instead of considering as an obstacle, it's the greatest opportunity ever given to you to see the finer nuances of everything. Life will offer you opportunities like this. But if you consider them as an obstacle, then you are not worthy for spiritual life. Spiritual life is to be alone, to be single, to be roaming around without anything, and nothing should be an obstacle. You should be just wandering about just like that. We will do the verse where he is going to tell you this. We are doing verse 25 from chapter 13 of the Uddhav Gita. He should beg his food mostly from the hermitages of people who have retired into the forest. For by partaking of their food consisting of grains picked up from their fields, he soon becomes purified in mind and freed from delusions, attains perfection. This is an important line. You know what he is saying? When you are wandering around, take from those people, only those places and those people who have themselves given up their life. That means if you meet holy people on the way, partake of their food when they offer it to you. They may be offering a little bit of their own, but that little bit of their own is the most purified food of all times. Understood? If you go to a rich man and if he gives you a rich food, it contains a lot of desires in that food. That food should be shunned by a sage. Never eat in a place, if you are a spiritual person, never eat in a place where there Too many desires, too much of wants, too many things covering that person, literally on top of that person's mind. Never go to such a place. Eat from a place where you are served humbly. Even that little thing which you are served humbly is the greatest thing that you can ever eat, because it is free from desires. So, in the olden times when the sages used to wander in the jungles and so were many places, they would partake of people who were from an ashram. An ashram food where you don't have to pay for any money. That ashram food has come from donations. That ashram food has come from some places where you don't even know the food can be grown right there itself. Partake of that food. You will be sure when you see the food that it is not a processed food. Normally people prefer processed food. I was watching one video yesterday where the person has donated 20 million food packages. And he is covered by literally all the big networks in the world. So all the television cameras were on him. And he was giving interviews to people saying, I served 20 million people food. Don't even touch that food. For a very simple reason. It stinks of publicity. It stinks of rajas. It is not done with good intentions. A person who does this with good intentions, without any publicity, does it quietly, is the place where you can take the food from. If you are a sage or a saint, and you are on the path of spiritual, don't go to places where people will say, I served so many people. I gave 1,000 people, food. Don't. Go to a place where you may be that one person. When you knock on the door, they will give you some food. That is it. This is what he says. You should beg for his food mostly from hermitages or people who have retired into the forest, and by partaking of their food consisting of grains picked up from the fields, he soon becomes purified in mind and freed from delusions, attains perfection. Verse 26 from chapter 13 of the Uddhav Gita. The visible world he should not consider as a reality, for it perishes. But his mind, unattached to this world and the next, he should desist from activities tending to enjoyment in them. This whole world is Maya's creation. The pandemic is of Maya's creation. Has it ever happened before? Never. Have you seen airlines just lying over there? Nobody is moving? Never. Have you ever seen the trains and everything coming to a standstill? Never. The whole world has come to a standstill. Nothing is moving. From India, there are no aircrafts flying abroad. The government has said flights may resume after 1st of August. But there is no idea of that as well. So, have you seen the whole world is literally at a standstill? This has never happened before. Why? Maya's creation can never be understood. Never. What she does with your life also you can never understand. Maya is very strange. She is the illusory power of the Lord. And this illusory power of the Lord is very strange. And this is what he says. The visible world he should not consider as a reality, for it perishes. Everything in this material world, whatever may be happening to you, you may be thinking that I am completely suffocated at home, doing nothing. Or I am quarantined, I am grounded. It is good for you. Maya is playing her cards. Don't bother about it. With his mind unattached to this world and the next, he should desist from activities tending to enjoyment in them. A person should go about not getting bothered by Maya at all. Whatever is happening, accept it as God's gift to you. So immediately yesterday when I said, if there is no Guru Purnima, the immediate reaction was, oh my God, what's going to happen? And a few minutes later, the reaction was, we will be able to find solutions. Do you know, the same thing which was an obstacle turned into opportunity the next minute. It was the grace of God that flows through the person. When you are a sage, the grace flows so easily. The same thing can be seen as a very beautiful thing happening to you. So he says, with your mind completely unattached in the material world, don't be attached to anything. Let the world do what it wants. Why are you bothered? If it bothers you, your mind has come, your senses are there, you are now a material worldly person. But if it doesn't bother you, and you are then free. Remember the words that we did? A person is free. And when you are free, then you are one with the divine. Just take it. And do not say anything about it. Just accept it. Then you become friends with Maya. Maya is the Lord himself. You know that, no? Maya is God's potency. The power of God. So when you become one with Maya, when you understand how she plays her cards, then you become her friend. And then nothing troubles you. Faith is the important word over here. Vasudev was carrying his son, just born son, and crossing the Yamuna. The water was overflowing. He entered the water so that he can leave the baby with his foster parents. You know, I am telling you the story of Krishna, isn't it? So when he was carrying the baby on his head in a small basket, when he entered the waters were rising. The feet of Krishna touched the waters and the waters receded. This is called the magic of faith. Faith will hit you very hard and you can see magic happening in your life. Have that tremendous faith. Nothing should deter you. And when you have that faith, Krishna himself will touch that place with his foot maybe. And things will change. How do you know? Do you think Maya is so strong? Maya is God's potency alone. So don't bother about it. Just take that life as it comes. Don't get disturbed. Be lost in the self and just move on. With his mind unattached to this world and the next, he should desist from activities tending to enjoyment in them. Enjoyment also means, getting bogged down. Please remember the word enjoyment is two ways. That means sometimes, the entire whole world is falling on top of you. You may be in the worst place. That also happens. We'll move to verse 27. Chapter 13 verse 27 from the Uddhav Gita. This world and this body and the mind, the speech, the pranas are all delusive superimpositions on the self. Reasoning thus, he should take his stand on the self, and giving up the former, should no more think of them. I just now gave you the same example. The world, this body of yours, the mind, the speech and the prana, all this is Maya's creation. It is a superimposition on this world. It's a delusive superimposition on the self. When we follow the path of the spiritual, I have always told you, you are not the body. Now change it to bodies. You are none of those bodies. We have 3 bodies. And you are none of those. You are the supreme divine self yourself. The effulgent one. What makes you think that you are the body? So here Krishna says, this world around you, everything over here around you, this body of yours, with the mind, speech and the pranas, are all delusions. You are the pure self. When you are the pure self, rest everything in this world is illusory. There is nothing real in this. Everything comes and goes, comes and goes. You see, you may see a tree. Tomorrow it may get chopped down. You may see a bird. It may be dead tomorrow. You may see another human being next to you. It could be your own spouse. That spouse may disappear. You may see a house. It may go in the storm that may come in. You may have a lot of money. The money disappears. Can you imagine all these things happening to you? Is anything permanent around you? You look at your body. Every day it is changing shape. You see, for the men, have you not seen growing beard? See, it is changing shape. It is not real. Everything is unreal. Anything that changes is unreal. The one that is steady, constant, eternal is God. So think about that which is always there. So the self always exists. And because the self always exists, it is the divine portion of the Lord. So this is what he says. The world, the body and the prana, with the mind, speech and prana are all delusive superimpositions on the self. The self is the only thing that is real. Reasoning thus, he should take the stand on the self. Throw the rest of the things out. The world, chuck it away. This body, worthless. The mind, senses, prana, not good. And giving up the former. Give up all these things, former. You should no more think of them. Don't even think of them. In the material world, when you start all this, you think about the prana, the breath control, this, that, everything. There's no need. Why are you bothered? If you are a sage, you should not be bothered with anything, including the body, including the food that comes to you, where you stay, what you do, how you eat. Nothing in this world is real. Then you have become an enlightened person. We'll move to verse 28. Chapter 13, Uddhav Gita, verse 28. He who avers to objective world is devoted to knowledge, or not caring even for liberation is devoted to me, should move about regardless of the order of life with their respective insignia. He should be above the ties of formality. A true sannyasi should not be bothered whether he is wearing orange color clothes, whether he is wearing white color clothes, or whether his clothes are ironed, they are not ironed. He should not be bothered about that. He should not be bothered about the insignia that he carries. I come from this matha. I come from this ashrama. He should not be bothered about that. Who cares? where you come from. You are the self. You don't have any ashrama. You don't have any matha. You don't belong to any denomination. You are neither a Hindu or Muslim or whatever. You are not even a human being. You are the true self, and the true self is not even a body. So this is what he means. He says, the person, sage, is averse to the material world. The material world is outside of him. He is averse to it. He is not even bothered about the material world. Whatever happens, who cares? The sage is not bothered what is happening around him. I was reading Tapovan Maharaj's book. Tapovan Maharaj was the guru of Chinmayananda, Swami Chinmayananda. He would enter China, go to Tibet and wander around in all those places and come back. No passport, no visa, nothing. Not even a pair of clothes. He just had what he was wearing, that is all that he had. And no clothes for winter and all that, nothing like that. He would go to Tibet and all those places, he would go to Mount Kailash, just wander. Nothing in the world could stop. One day, while he was walking, he was stopped by some Chinese soldiers. Because Tibet is in China, so he was stopped by the Chinese soldiers and they took him to a place, a jail. They said, you go inside and sit over there. And they saw he was not even wearing the clothes that are required for these harsh winters. And they took him and they made him sit over there. No identification, no visa, no passport, nothing. He's just a wanderer, a Swamiji, going away. So they thought, he must be a spy. How do you look like this person as a spy? So they kept him confined. The soldiers, their officer came. And the moment he came, he saw, Swamiji, over here. And he immediately fell down at his feet and he said, oh, it's so nice to see you. And then he looked at his soldiers, why are you holding him? Let him go. And they gave him food and all and they let him go. There are no confinements in the spiritual world if you are a sage. Let me tell you this. The only thing that can take you ahead are your legs. So you just wander around here and there. And what do you carry with you? The world you don't carry, you just have the knowledge inside of you. You are the one effulgent with the knowledge. Can anybody rob that knowledge from you? No. Not even caring for liberation. A person doesn't even care for liberation. He just wanders around. He's like this. Tapovan Maharaj, he was just confined at one place. Do you think he was bothered? In his case, do you think he was bothered about, confinement, liberation, this, that? He was not even bothered about that. And he was devoted to the Lord. Regardless of his order of life, he was not even bothered about this order of life. Was he a sannyasi? He was not dressed in the clothes of a sannyasi. Was he carrying a staff or something like that? No. Was he carrying an identification? No. He was the pure self. Have you seen Ramana Maharishi's photographs? Have you seen Sai Baba's photographs? Have you seen Ramakrishna Paramahansa's photographs? You see, when you look at them, you can see freedom written on them. Effulgence in their being. There is no confinement. They don't wear fancy clothes. They don't give interviews. They are not in the media's eyes. They are not bothered about millions of students or thousands of them. They are not bothered where they live. Baba said to people who was around them, there was a person called Butti Sheth. He was from Nagpur. Butti Sheth said, Butti, Sheth means a big person, Sir. So Butti Sheth said to Baba, Baba, I am going to make one, Vada over there. Vada means a big house, grand house. I want to put Krishna statue over there. So Baba looks at him, Sai Baba looks at him, Bhutti Shet, and says, you know what? Can you give me little space over there? I will come for inauguration, don't worry. And Baba passed his mortal coil. And his samadhi was built in Bhutti's Vada. That is how it is. The beauty of it all. So in Sai Baba's entire that Bhutti Vada, there is no Krishna over there. There is Baba over there. So this is the way they live. The sages live like this. They are like this, totally free. They are least bothered. They are regardless of the order of life, and they don't bother about whether there is an insignia, whether there is anything. They just are so free. Look at your own self and tell me whether you are free from any of these things. You are not a free person because everything bogs you down. Freedom is about just not getting bothered with anything in this world. That is freedom. He should be above the ties of formality. You see, in the material world we say namaste, this, good morning, good evening. Should it bother you? No. People wishing you is very important. I wished him, he didn't wish me back. I said good morning. Person doesn't even respond. When people write to me, sometimes I don't even write back to them. I watch those people. It's very easy to get angry, Guruji doesn't even care for my one simple message. You think I don't know your messages? You may send me in the middle of night also. You think I don't know? You think I don't know anything that is going on in this world? You may not be in front of me, but every step of your life I am with you. Please remember this. No formality is done by the Guru. No formality will ever be done by a sage of the highest order. He doesn't bother about formalities. There was a Baba Puttur Swami he was called. He would be dressed in the simplest of the clothes and he would suddenly wander here, there. People used to say, Baba, they are celebrating you over here. Oh, is it? And he will come after 2 hours and he will say, what are they doing over here? Baba, they are celebrating you over there. Oh, very nice, very good. And he will just sit in the corner over there. Now I am going. And he would just wander away. It is so funny, That is the simplicity of the sages. They don't care for formality at all. They don't give a damn. You know the reason why? Because they are eternally free. They are the avdhutas of this world. An avdhuta is a person who doesn't even care. You care for your body, your mind, everything. A human being does that. He bothers about what clothes he wears. But a sage is least bothered. How he wears his clothes, doesn't even care. Which way he looks, doesn't even care. This is the way. Understand this. There is nothing important in this world except the self, the supreme divine consciousness. Rest, everything is fake. So don't get attached to anything. Not even your appearances. Not even the day you are a sage, don't bother about anything. You be free. How you live, nobody cares. Why should you care how the whole world is treating you? And that is the way a sage survives. He does his job and then he goes away. So we have come to the end of verse 28. We will stop over here. Next week there are no satsangs. Saturday, Sunday there are no satsangs. 4th and 5th I think there will be no satsang. We will resume the week after that. So I will see you all the week after that. Take care. You have a very great day and I'll see you all the week later.